Well, you are at home with Jim and Joy, and this is our special show. It's one of my favorite shows.
Indeed.
It's the Special Year in Review, where we're going to get to take a little journey of we've had so many great people on, but we're really going to get to celebrate some highlights, right?
Absolutely. And it brings home again just the blessing that we have of meeting some incredible people. I think it's Pope Benedict that said, what's needed today more than ever in this world is the credible witness of people whose testimony and witness can turn the hearts and the minds of people to God and to truth. And so we just love doing this show because we get to meet these people up close, hear their stories, look into their eyes, and bring them to you. I don't know what the rest of the media is doing and what they hold up and the people that they show you, but there's so many people just like you who are trying faithfully to be wives and husbands and grandmas and grandpas and chaste single people and widows and so on. And it's just such an encouragement to see so many people who have not bent the knee to Baal. And that's what the show is about. And I hope that you'll be taking some time as we begin a new year just to reflect on the year past, the joys, the sorrows, the losses, the gains, and to really think about those things. Over this past year, we lost Mother Angelica. She passed on to her eternal reward. Her legacy lives on here at EWTN and through people like you to share Christ and His church with the world, the whole world. So what's happened in your life? And then to understand that, to live in the now, and to set your face towards the future. So know your past, be in the now, set your face towards the future. The best is yet to come.
And you're good at reflection. I'm full speed ahead and I'm on to the next thing. But you, being married to you for 39 years, you've taught me to reflect, to see what was good, what was bad, what worked, what didn't work, so that you don't keep repeating the same mistakes in the future.
Well, we're going to be looking at several of our guests that we've had on, and it's going to be absolutely a powerful, powerful time. And we're going to learn through looking at them, and it's going to be something that is going to inspire us to live this new year. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back, so please don't go away.
Welcome back, where you are at home with Jim and Joy, and a blessed new year to you. We're having a special show with the Year in Review. And our first segment is going to be pro-life. We will have people who are doing the work on the ground with their faces set towards heaven. Our first guest is Chris Slattery, who is the president of Expectant Mother Care. The next one will be Rebecca Kissling, and she's a pro-life speaker, and she was conceived through rape. And then finally in this segment, it will be David DeLeyden, who is the Center for Medical Progress. 3 outstanding pro-life people. So we're just going to take a walk back and see what they had to say on At Home with Jim and Joy.
Let's go to it now. I'm trying to image this again. You're in New York City, so they're different boroughs, right?
Right.
And they're huge. What boroughs are you in?
We're focusing on the 3 big outer boroughs where most of the population lives. That is Brooklyn, Queens, and in the Bronx. And that's where most of the women who get abortions are from.
Like, what's the population of some of those places?
Well, you take Brooklyn.
I think a borough, it sounds like small.
Yeah.
Like New York City is the big
Brooklyn, New York has a population of 2.7 million, with over 35,000 women getting an abortion from Brooklyn alone annually. Some of the neighborhoods of Brooklyn, very black borough, the abortion rates are 60 or 65%.
Right.
From some of the poor sections of Brooklyn. There are more black babies aborted in New York City annually for the last 40 years than are born every year.
Right.
Which is staggering.
Right, it is staggering. But now you also mentioned that you're in one building that you are in New York, also is an abortion clinic in the exact same building.
Yes, as a matter of fact, we're in downtown Brooklyn Borough Hall area. We're in the same building since 1999 with 2 giant abortion clinics, one of them Planned Parenthood. There are probably more women aborted in that building than the entire state of, or was it 9,000 abortions in Birmingham?
In the state of Alabama.
Then the whole state performed in the building in which we work, in Brooklyn. We're 3 seconds away from the killing centers by elevator. It's staggering.
So what floor are you on?
We're on 9, and the abortion clinics are on 3 and 6.
The abortion clinics.
Yes, are literally in the same elevator shaft with us. I mean, they're literally, some of them have the Planned Parenthood has the whole floor, the whole 6th floor, a mega clinic. And they have one in each of the 5 boroughs of New York City now. Now, remember, this is 2016, and 100 years ago, this October, Margaret Sanger founded Planned Parenthood in New York City, opening the first birth control information clinic in Brooklyn, again, 100 years ago this October. So from there, a monster was unleashed.
I was 18 when I first learned that I was conceived in rape. I was 19 when I actually met my birth mother, and she shared with me the horrific details. She's only 4 feet, 10 inches. She's weighed 90 pounds, really petite. She was a single mom heading to the grocery store at night, and she was abducted at knife point and brutally raped. I mean, she described for me in graphic detail, and it was awful. And that's how I was conceived. I remember feeling so worthless, like garbage, because of all the people who would say that my life was like garbage, that I was disposable. And I very much felt targeted by our society. I instantly thought of what people say about being pro-life except in cases of rape, or especially in cases of rape. I asked my birth mother about abortion, even though she was so happy to meet me, wrote me a beautiful letter, and we had a joyful reunion. But when I asked her about abortion, she told me that if it had been legal in Michigan at the time, she would have aborted me. Even if she had to do it all over again, she said. And so she was pro-choice for the first 6 years I knew her. And she did not choose life for me. She chose abortion, but pro-life advocates chose life for me. They protected me in Michigan. 100% pro-life, no exceptions, no compromise, and they're my heroes. I literally owe my birth to the law being there to protect me.
Because she did try to go to abortion clinics, right?
She did. Yes, she went to 2 back alley abortions, and I learned that after she had changed her mind about abortion, and about 8 years later, she told me. And I think it was kind of good that I learned that later, so I can only handle so much at a time. But yeah, I had a couple of near-death experiences. I mean, I know the time, place, manner, how much money, $500, all the circumstances of it. I can watch the movie Back Alley Detroit. It's the documentary on the Back Alley Network, used in feminist studies all over the country, and I can see the men who would have taken my life. And that's my life-changing near-death experience. I realize today that it's really stories that pierce the heart in ways in which arguments cannot. And so sometimes I'll go through these arguments when I'm on a college campus, and somebody will start to bring up the arguments during the question and answer period. But I see them sit back quite smug, smirking in fact, being well pleased with keeping this discussion in the philosophical realm. So they can play, let's make pretend we're not talking about real people. But we need to remind people that we are talking about real people. You see it every day at your pregnancy center. How many people know whether Norma McCorvey, Jane Roe from Roe v. Wade had a son or a daughter.
That's right.
I ask pro-life
Right.
leaders all the time. She had a daughter.
Right.
A daughter, not some fictitious,
Right.
theoretical, philosophical, legal entity called a fetus, but a real woman.
I think it was in 2010, the whole kind of subtopic of baby parts trafficking and the sale and the commercial exploitation of aborted fetal tissue started to come across my radar. And I remember having a conversation with Mark Crutcher out in Texas, who's with the group Life Dynamics, who's responsible for really the first kind of seminal expose of baby parts trafficking back in 1999 and 2000. And so by the time that I started talking to Mark about it, that was in, I think, summer of 2010. And it had been 10 years at that point since this issue had ever
Right.
been part of the public discourse. And I sat there listening to Mark tell me about all the behind-the-scenes aspects of it for a good 3 hours. And I was really shocked and horrified because, again, this was something that was really gruesome and inhumane and wasn't just a one-off occurrence, wasn't just a once-in-a-blue moon kind of thing, but what I understood from Mark and from the research that I started doing then is that baby parts trafficking is a real thing where people are sending in order forms and order lists and quotas of certain types of body parts, certain numbers of body parts, certain gestational ages of abortions that need to be done to fulfill the orders every single day, week after week after week. And so again, it's this industrial scale dehumanization and assault on little people that nobody talks about.
Right, and you're wondering, where's the
you wonder-
outcry? Where's the outcry?
Yeah, and so I remember getting off the phone with Mark after 3 hours, and I was really upset. I was crying. I had nightmares about it for the like a whole week after that, I think. And I was really, really convinced that I felt like more than any other kind of subtopic or issue within the whole world of abortion and abortion in America, that the baby parts issue specifically was something that really deserved to have a very in-depth, sophisticated, long-term expose done on it. Because it deserved to be headline news again. It deserved to be something that was part of, if people were going to talk about abortion policy in the United States, if people were going to talk about how we treat unborn children, that the issue of selling baby parts, I felt, should be one of the first parts of the conversation, because to me, that is sort of the capstone of the logic of the abortion industry. It's what comes naturally beyond abortion. It's the next step, and it's sort of the dehumanization beyond the initial dehumanization, an objectification of an unborn child beyond the initial objectification of treating them like something that's able to just be killed. And there's this really cruel paradox that's at the heart of it that I could not get over then, and I still can't get over today, that on the one hand, the baby fetus is not, their humanity is not considered to be equal enough to our own in order to be fully protected by laws in our country, and in order to be fully protected from being killed by abortion. But at the same time, it's precisely that equal humanity, it's completely identical to our own, that makes them so valuable for researchers and for Planned Parenthood and for their allies to hunt after their body parts like buried treasure. And to me, there's something really cruel and really twisted about that. And I think that it throws into really stark relief the conflict that this whole industrial scale form of child killing that is abortion, the conflict that has with our deepest values as human beings and as Americans about human equality and human dignity. We fought a war 150 years ago in order to stop slavery, and now we're still buying and selling people to this day.
Well, those are incredible witnesses and testimonies as regards the gospel of life. And as they were saying in various ways, that their experience is taking abortion out of the theoretical into the reality. And, Rebecca Kissling saying, when you speak about, well, of course you should be able to abort someone who's conceived in rape, you're talking about me. You're talking about me. And you have to look into the faces of these people. And Slattery, Chris Slattery, the amazing job he's doing there in the boroughs of New York City, and certain boroughs that have more babies aborted than are birthed. And his own facility, he said, there are over 10,000 abortions done in his facility. He's 3 seconds away. He's saving lives, and then 3 seconds away, Planned Parenthood is there in the same facility aborting children, and it just seems so surreal. But those witnesses, we need to get on board with what these people are saying. We need to do our part, because what do you mean when you say abortion? And they really answered that question. What do you mean when you say abortion? You're talking about human beings. It's an urgent situation, and it's one in which the gospel of life will prevail.
Well, and I just want to thank the three of those guests for the privilege that they gave to you at home and EWTN, that we could bring the truth and the story to you, because, you know, we can all sit home and pretend this isn't happening. Well, this is happening, and EWTN is the only network that's bringing this to you. So what a privilege. Are they doing hard and difficult things? Yes, they are. But they are advancing the culture of life against the culture of death and lifting the veil from all of our faces and all of our hearts and all of our eyes, that we too would defend life.
We're going to take a break at this point. Lots more to come. You're going to be greatly encouraged as you enter the new year. Don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, you are at home with Jim and Joy, and a blessed new year to you. We are doing our Year in Review show. And in this segment, we're going to cover special challenges. We had a great guest, Bob Luhana, who wrote a book, No Arms, No Legs, No Problems.
He lives it.
He lives it. He's a Paralympic athlete and a motivational speaker. Next, we'll feature Brendan and Nicole Flynn. They were accident survivors, an unbelievable story. And then finally, we will have Mark Pickup. He's with North America Advocates on Life and Disability Issues. So get your coffee, sit down, and enjoy this wonderful segment.
Struggle and suffering is part of our lives too, and it's really easy to get down on the dumps and to do the why me, and those are human emotions, and there's nothing wrong experiencing those. But to me, it's at that moment that God is there, that Christ is present, that He's reaching out to you, that it's like, all right, I'm here, and that's really what has sustained me, is just knowing that this just didn't happen for a reason. This wasn't because things were done bad in the past or what have you. It was very much a way to show me as an opportunity to reach out for Him, and to really very much affirm the faith that I've always known and have, and to continue it. To realize that it doesn't matter how difficult things are, He does provide. Yeah, the prayers might not be answered right now, but there's a greater purpose, there's a greater direction, and really what that verse really hits on is just, you're praying for strength and faith and patience right now, and those things really just don't happen. And in regards to myself, and in regards to all the suffering, I very much embraced it and very much was thankful for it, because I knew there was a direction, there was a purpose. I had over 20 operations, and at the end of the day, I survived all of them. And to me, it was a reflection of His love and His continuing, I guess, faith in me, if you will, and knowing that there was a purpose. And when you're 9 or 10 years old going through surgeries, you just want to get over them and go home and play with your cousins and brothers and nephews. And at the end of the day, I just knew that as I got through them, that it was taking me to a step to another direction, to somewhere else. My life has very much been going in different places and meeting different people. And one place that really got my strength was going up to Coleman to meet Mother Angelica. It was very much in 2002, where me and my Uncle Richard, he came to visit me from Kansas, and he just wanted to go just to go see the Shrine of the Blessed Sacrament. And he just wanted to go. And when we were there, we were giving a tour, we just asked, is there any chance to see Mother? Was Mother in? And some of her sisters were there, and they went out and they grabbed her and brought her in. And it was literally right after she had gone through some serious health issues. She had just come home from the hospital. And as I looked at her and talked with her, and even though she couldn't talk at the time, I could still see in her eyes the strength to know that, hey, I went through this, but I'm okay. And I still am going to be a part of, the Blessed Sacrament. I'm still going to be part of the church community. And seeing that strength in her eyes, and knowing what she's going through, you know, that very much made me realize, you know, I'm in the right place. I'm in the right direction. And, you know, being able to meet her, again, was just more affirmation of having faith and knowing that the Lord is going to provide and take you places you've never been. You know, I recently, about a year ago, went to Israel, and I presented my book at a conference. And as afterwards, we went to Jerusalem and went to, you know, to the Wailing Wall. And you know, if you read those Psalms at the wall, they're very powerful, especially the ones on Jerusalem. And then going to the shrine of the Blessed Sacrament, to me the most holy place, and for all Christians, the most holy place where Christ died. And just seeing the tomb and just being there. I actually had to climb up the stairs to get to the tomb. People were wondering, how are you going to get up there? And I just got out of my chair and hopped up. So again, just having those experiences, meeting the people there.
Well, right before my accident, I still can't remember because of the amnesia. But my mom always tells me I had 2 feet in hell.
2 feet in hell?
Yeah, 2 feet in hell.
That's not a good thing.
I was totally different. And I remember I used to, I got picked on in elementary and middle school, so in high school I was pretty mean, and I didn't pray that much. And then the accident happened, and I woke up as like, all of a sudden, my mom was there and told me I was okay, and I was like, I knew I just gotta get better. And I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I couldn't even swallow. I still had problems swallowing, but...
Yeah, I mean, when you say you knew you were going to get better, again, all I've seen is the pictures and some of the videos. I mean, what you two went through, you know, and I saw especially yours, what you looked like and what was happening to you, and that recuperation period, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I weighed about 90 pounds. Yeah, it was pretty...
Yeah.
But you had to learn how to walk. You had to learn how to talk.
Yeah, and the hardest thing was learning how to swallow. And I remember the doctors telling me that, you know, the thickener, it doesn't taste like anything, but it tasted really bad. I'd have to drink, and I still have problems drinking. I cough all the time. I choke whenever I'm drinking. I have to focus. I just have to duck my chin and swallow, otherwise I choke. And that'll be for the rest of my life. But it was nothing compared to what Jesus went through, so I could be with him.
But as you became conscious after the accident and you were with your mother there, something inside of you said, I'm going to be okay. I mean, I'm going to make it through this. Right?
Yeah, I never had that moment of defeat where I just knew it must have been the Holy Spirit, because, I mean, I have no explanation. I just knew to try to get better, and I will, no matter what. And then people give up. They give up too easily, and I will never give up.
So you had a great will to live.
Yeah.
I mean, after the accident, there was never this surrender in Brendan that just said, oh, forget it. But even on your worst day.
Yeah. Before the accident, I would have even signed a piece of paper giving the doctors permission to kill me, or you know, let me go compassionately. But this accident happened. I was like immediately transformed into this completely different person, and that's the struggle today. They're killing all these people all over the world, and they've had this conversion probably, but can't voice their opinions, and they're killing them.
At one point you shared about kind of the isolation or solitude with you, with your wife, you know, just going through your own grief process. Who helped you? Is there community in the midst of that, or what happened to bring you around?
If it had not, not been for God and the love of my wife and my community and my church, I might have despaired. I might have chosen assisted suicide. If there had been someone back in the mid-1980s, I might have chosen it. But I'm so glad today I did not. I never would have known my 5 grandchildren. You see, suicide never affects just the individual. It always affects others. If I chose assisted suicide, it will affect me, it will affect my wife, it'll affect my children and my grandchildren, and it'll affect my doctor because I'll ask her to stop being my healer and become my killer. It'll affect my community and my nation by helping to entrench the notion that there is such a thing as a life that is not worth living. I mentioned how I got too sick to be involved with the Pregnancy Care Center. In 1994 in Canada, there was a challenge to the laws against assisted suicide by a woman by the name of Sue Rodriguez. And I can remember her sitting in her wheelchair on the steps of the Canadian Supreme Court saying that what she wanted was an option that people with disabilities wanted. And I can remember saying, she's not talking for me. So I started what I thought was a short letter to the Justice Minister saying is, no, I don't agree with this.
My life is sacred.
It turned into an 18-page position paper, which got me in front of the Canadian Senate that was studying the prospect of legalizing assisted suicide back in the 1990s. Basically, it boiled down to me saying, please do not go this direction. And I talked about what I called significant community, what I've just described to you, and how critical that was in my journey through my darkest times. They held me up and held up my value even when I doubted my own value, that they didn't listen to a cry of despair that I might have uttered at my lowest point. They protected me at times even from myself. And what that started was a whole number of invitations. I was invited to Washington to appear before or to make a presentation before the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. And that started the whole ball rolling throughout the 1990s. I spoke across America. At that time, if you remember, Jack Kevorkian was quite big in Michigan. And they had what this bill called, in 1998, a bill called Proposal B, that was a midterm election ballot asking the populace if they wanted to have assisted suicide. And Michigan Right to Life asked me to be a part of their education. So I went to various cities in Michigan and explained what that would do to people like me. Now, that was only a small cog in a larger wonderful education program that Michigan Right to Life put forward. And the lesson is that when they started that, they were very concerned because 70% of the electorate was in support of assisted suicide. By the time that the bill actually came through, only 30% voted for it. The numbers completely reversed. And it came down to a matter of public education. As long as you're talking about we have a right to autonomous choice and what about it's a suffering. But as soon as you explain to people that we have wonderful ways of alleviating suffering, that people do not need to die in excruciating pain. That's something from a long time ago, and people may have that memory of a loved one who died that way, but it doesn't have to be like that.
Well, now I understand better why, as I evaluate our past year, I've shared with you a number of times that the people we shared with special disabilities, like those several that we just heard from, have had such a profound impact on my life. Their clarity, I think it's purity of heart. They've suffered so much that they have purity of heart. Blessed are the pure of heart because they shall see God. And these people with special conditions are seeing God. They are just the spokespersons we need in the midst of a culture of death, a growing suicide, euthanasia culture, to speak the gospel of life and hope and community and the gifts and graces God wants to give through it. That suicide and euthanasia just don't affect the person, it affects multitudes of people, just like abortion does.
Well, and one of the other guests that we had on was John Foppe, and one of the things that he said is that it's not a disability, it's a condition, and we all have conditions. You might have a condition of unforgiveness. You might not be in a wheelchair. You may not have been through a catastrophic accident, but you may have unforgiveness or hatred or anger that's holding you back, that Jesus wants to set you free, that you would do this new year in a well place, in body, in mind, and spirit, and know the dignity and value of your own human life as those three guests knew the dignity and value of their own lives.
We're going to take a break. Plenty more credible witnesses to come. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Well, you are at home with Jim and Joy. And just in case you're tuning in now, we want to wish you a blessed new year. And we invite you to get a cup of coffee, sit down, and watch our final segment. The final segment is on holy testimonies, okay? We have Barbara Padilla, who is an international opera singer who brought this house down with her, first of all, just her presence and then her singing. Immaculate Ilibagiza, who survived genocide in Rwanda. And Dr. Gianna Molla, who's the daughter of Saint Gianna Beretta Molla. They were, all three of them knocked it out of the park. It was unbelievable. So you're not going to want to miss this segment.
Everything that has happened to this point, it has led for me to be here to share what the Lord has allowed me to go through. It's been a long journey. I was born in, I'm Mexican. I was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco, and when I was a student in the university, I felt some lumps. I mean, I've always been Catholic. I've always believed in God. But there was a turning point of my life, and I was in the university studying voice, and I was studying music, and I started to feel some lumps in my neck, and I thought, well, maybe those are muscles. Those are muscles that are going to just be there because I'm singing. No, they were not muscles. They were lumps. They were cancerous tumors that were growing, and well, we found out that I had stage 4 Hodgkin's disease, Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's it was a blessing to just catch them right before I died. but then everything changed. I mean, my journey started. My big journey started right there when they told me, you know what, you have cancer. But at the same time, I always, as I told you, I always had faith. I always believed in God. And I always believed that God had a plan in all of us. You just never know that the plan is for you to be sick, for you to get to the point that you can't do anything, to lose control of your life completely and to focus solely in God's plan.
Wow.
And then I started treatments and everything. I mean, and it was a journey that took me 5 years to conquer, finally, to beat this illness. At the beginning, I didn't know that what was going to change. You know, you go in there and, well, they tell you cancer. I was not too scared. I'm like, well, I'm going to have chemotherapy and everything is going to go back to normal. I was afraid of losing my hair, of course, as any 20-year-old could be, and then I discovered that it was not going to be just losing my hair. It was going to be a whole lot more. I had to start chemotherapy, and while I was in school, I wasn't going to just give up school. I kept going, and I had chemotherapy, and they told me, you know what, it's not working, and it's not working, and it's not working lasted 5 years, you know. But in those 5 years, wonderful things happened too. Like I was told, you're sick, and you're going to be losing all kinds of control of your life. You're going to be the sick one, and you are going to be sometimes hooked to a hospital bed, and somebody else is going to be taking care of you. And that's one of the most important things that I learned. Like, I am going to be on the other side of the coin, because you have to be merciful. You have to take care of the sick. You're always looking for something to do to please God, and that was like my thought. But no, sometimes you have to be the sick one for others to take care of you. You have to receive. That's difficult. That's difficult for all of us. You think that you have to do something for somebody else, but then you discover that it's beautiful also to, you don't have to do anything but let others take care of you. What is this joke? It felt like a joke, a bad joke from the Lord. I mean, I'm like, I have a new life about to start, and you are taking it away from me. But then it was like, okay, you gave it to me, you can take it away. And you're going to manage to give me something else if you take it away, because I am destined to be happy, because that's what you, that's what you, yeah, that's what why you created me, and it doesn't matter what you take away from me. You're going to give. If you are with me, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be joyful.
Right.
So the things that I underwent radiation, and they burnt me, and the voice never went away.
In 1994, I was a student in college. I lived in Rwanda with my family, but this time I was living in college, and I was home for Easter holiday. My family are Catholic, and we were just happy to be home for the Easter.
Yeah.
We were supposed to be there for 1 week, and it was on Wednesday, April 7th, 1994. In the morning, we woke up, we heard the news that the president of the country was killed that night. But it was something that was prepared for a while. We knew in the country we had two main tribes, Hutu and Tutsi. And the Hutu had the power, but there was always talks that made us feel minimized as Tutsis. You know, I remember there was a radio for 2 years that the journalists used to pretend like they were drunk. So they would tell on TV, on radio, that one day they will kill people of our tribe. And I was wondered why nobody's doing something about it. In a country where people love each other, why they're not stopping that radio? But they say it was private. So we were kind of scared when this whole thing happened. However, on the 7th of April in the morning, we heard the president was killed. And from the moment he was killed, what was prepared was starting killing family by family.
So he's,
of our
the president
tribe.
is Hutu?
It was a Hutu,
Yeah.
but people say actually his people killed him because he would not allow them to eliminate the whole group of our tribe. It will be on his name. So when they killed him first, then they said, oh, you killed our president. So, but it was like 10 minutes later, they started to kill one family after one family. I remember 2 hours later, we got the news, BBC Radio reported 18 families that were killed. And they were saying, 10 children, mom and dad, have just been killed. And I remember my father saying, this never happened before. We have killed the whole family. And that's really the reason why they call it a genocide. It was an attempt to eliminate a whole group of people. So he put me to sit in a tiny bathroom, 3 by 4 feet. And I remember when I went in that bathroom thinking, I can't sit here. I mean, it just happened like that. 2 days before, I was in college with a scholarship, paid to go to school. 2 days before that, I had my own room in my parents' house. How can things change so quickly? So I sit in the bathroom, I'm complaining. He went back, brought 5 more women. Later, 2 more women. We were 8 people in 3 by 4 feet. And he told us not to speak to one another until the troubles goes away, because they can kill people for a tribe. We stayed there 3 months. What I thought was going to be a day, and I'm still complaining, how can this happen? 3 months. And during those 3 months, a lot happened. My heart changed. I felt like I grew up like 100 years because I had a lot of time to think. I came from anger with what was going on outside, delusion. You know, one time I would think, I need to go to tell my dad what happened. And then I would think, oh my God, but my dad maybe is going through the same thing. So it was like a roller coaster of feelings until the moment when I accepted it's terrible. And with that acceptance, I turned to the rosary my father gave me, and I started to pray. The only thing that seemed real, unchangeable, was God. Everything else you believed in was proving you wrong. And when things would be really bad, like they come to church, I felt as if I felt like I was wrapping myself on the cross. Jesus is there now, bleeding over me, and I can feel blood is falling over me. And I'm wrapping the blood all over my head, my body, like, okay, God, please protect me under your blood. And I felt like hidden. So they will search, but I'm under the blood. Our Lady was everything, was my mother there, who I felt was crying with me, but completely holding my heart. So I said the rosary because Our Lady, throughout my life, I come from a Catholic family, we knew and we loved the rosary. Our Lady said, pray the rosary every day. And those who pray it, I will give you what you want. Pray from your heart. I will console you. I am with you. So it was only thing I can do.
Yeah.
And she said, pray from the heart. So when I started to pray our Lord's Prayer, and I'm going through that part, forgive us as we forgive. I'm like, oh God, from the heart, mean that? But how? How do I mean it?
Right.
And when I felt like the world was divided, there's a part of love and a part of hate. There's Mother Teresa, people who have suffered, and people who have hated so badly. And I felt like our Lord was saying, where do you want to be? Can you really have love and hate in the same heart? No. Either we jump here or we jump here to the hate with Hitler, or we jump here with Mother Teresa in a side of love. Where do you want to be?
My dad usually tell me that God has given back to us our Jana as a holy spouse and a holy mother to share with people all around the world. Really, my dad told me more than one time that he implored the Lord to save also my mom's life,
Right.
not only my life. But the Lord is in infinite wisdom, did in a different way. And God, and my dad told me, I have accepted God's will without understanding it.
Right.
I understand, I have understood God's will many, many years later after Mom's death, when the church proclaimed Mom before blessed and then as a saint. He told me, I realize what God would like for Mom. If Mom would remain here with us, she could go on to do some good to her family, to her patients, to her neighbor. But God would like that Mom could do a lot of good to many, many people, more than only her family.
Right.
Really, I can testify how much good Mom has been doing since many years now. I continuously receive testimony of graces received through Mom's intercessions. I arrived in the United States 4 days ago. I arrived in Philadelphia, and I gave my testimony in a church. And then I have met a lot of people. Between these people, I met also a lot of baby Jana. Every time I come to the United States, I usually met many baby Janas, and also girls who have taken my mom as a patron saint for her confirmation. How much I am so very happy, really, to meet people who tell me how much we love your mom. Your mom is a great inspiration for us. And I am happy to share my mom with all people who pray to her, who ask for her intercession. And every time I came to know about graces received through Mom's intercession, I thank the Lord, because Lord has listened to Mom's prayers. First of all, I thank the Lord for this very singular and immeasurable grace, a grace very, very, very big. And of course, it's a great honor for me to have a mom canonized from the church. It's a great joy, and also a big responsibility. And really, while my first prayer, when I wake up in the morning and I open my eyes, is this. What I do, I thank the Lord, the Virgin Mary, who made my parents' hearts met. My most beloved Saint Mom and my most beloved Dad for the gift of life. the most precious and the most greatest gift. And then what I do, I pray the Lord and the Virgin Mary to help me to be worthy of my Saint Mom and to be worthy of my dad too, her most worthy spouse.
Well, that segment was titled Right, Holy Testimonies, and just so incredibly powerful. Barbara Padilla, a star, so gifted, saying, now what I do is that I suffer and I have people take care of me. I have to accept this. Immaculately saying the cross was wrapped around her. She was being tortured, and that the blood of Christ was all over her. The power of the blood of Christ to help us through our sufferings. And Manuela Mola, speaking about her mom, a very, 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 very great blessing.
She was so beautiful. You know, and all three of those women have suffered. They suffered trials, tribulations, but all three of them could say, it is well with my soul. So no matter what you've been through this year, I pray that your faith has been encouraged just in hearing their testimony. They didn't have anything extraordinary. They were just ordinary people loving the Lord, trying to live their faith out, and grace came to them in a special way. Through their sufferings, through their trials, they surrendered to the process, and God met them and blessed them so that they wouldn't deny Jesus. They all said, it's okay. God is with me. I'm going to be okay.
Yeah. Well, let's go to precious Joan Lewis, who's been so much a part of our show all throughout the year, convinces us that really Rome is our home. So let's listen to Joan.
Well, Happy New Year from Rome, and I think I have a little bit of a difficult mission today. I'm supposed to look back at the year 2016 in like 2 minutes. So I guess we'll just focus on the papal highlights. Now, on November 20th, Pope Francis closed the holy doors on St. Peter's Basilica, and he thus ended the extraordinary Holy Year, the Jubilee of Mercy. Now, this was a year filled with so many special events. There were the Papal Mercy Fridays, extra audiences on Saturday, the Missionaries of Mercy, and priests were given the faculty to absolve from the sin of abortion. Also, by the way, of course, was the canonization of Mother Teresa. Now, the Pope was asked about these Mercy Fridays, and he told Catholic television here that the visit with women rescued from human trafficking and his visit to the neonatal ward of a Rome hospital were the highlights that really stood out for him. Now, let's look at the papal trips, 8 of them. In February, he was in Cuba and Mexico, and in Cuba, he met Russian Orthodox Patriarch Kirill there. In April, he went to Greece. He and Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew and Archbishop Hieronymus of Athens went to the Moria refugee camp on the Greek island of Lesbos. June, the Pope was in Armenia. July, of course, Krakow, Poland for World Youth Day. October, Georgia and Azerbaijan. And then October 31st, November 1st, he was in Sweden. He visited, inside of Italy, he visited Assisi twice, on August 4th and again September 20th. And he also paid a surprise visit to the town of Amatrice, which of course had been almost devastated by the August earthquake there. Now, other highlights of this year: April, the publication of the post-synodal apostolic exhortation, Amoris Laetitia, the joy of love. In August, 2 dicasteries were formed: the Dicastery for Laity, Family, and Life, and also the Dicastery for Promoting Integral Human Development. A big event in November, of course, closing of the holy doors, but a consistory to create 17 new cardinals. And finally, on December 17th, Pope Francis turned 80. That's it. Back to you at home.
Bless you. Welcome back. Well, that was really hard for Joan to do.
She did it.
All that she did, and she did a great job. You know, hun, this is one of my favorite shows where we get to really look back and take a journey of all the beautiful programs that EWTN has brought to us all. And I just want to thank you for being a part of our family, for supporting this great network. God only knows what's ahead in 2017, but I'm going with Jesus. And so I just pray that you stay tuned, you keep supporting this network, and that your faith grows and soars in the year 2017, and that we wouldn't worry, we wouldn't be full of fear, that we would be full of faith, that we would be full of hope, and that we would be just ordinary people, madly in love with an extraordinary Jesus, having a great church of the Blessed Mother to lead us and guide us.
I think of that verse that says, no temptation, no test has overtaken you that's not common to man. But God is faithful, and he'll provide a way of escape, a way through the woods where you're lost, that you might be able to bear it. Joy and I are very aware that we sit at a table here at EWTN that we've not set. This is a work of God. If anybody has set the table to some degree who's a human, that's Mother Angelica. God rest and bless her soul. We always say to you, you're a very important part of this EWTN family. And you are always at home with Jim and Joy. Mother Angelica would tell us again and again, this whole network is about family. And at a time where the family seems to be disintegrating, and we're looking here and there and everywhere for connectedness, EWTN is family to us, to you, to millions throughout the whole world. May this be the best year of your life. God bless you. God bless all of your loved ones. Bye now.